Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Barcast TV and to another episode of Barcast Daily. Coming from the glorious resolution of 780p web camera, I'm here to talk to y'all about ladder anxiety and why you should be playing 1v1s as a new bar player or as a team game player. So we're going to be having a replay going off in the background between myself and Flower, and we're going to talk about these concepts or kind of go through my thoughts and what I would like to share with y'all. So let's go ahead and get into the replay. Want to shout out Randy and Ragna for sharing their thoughts on this topic. They were more than happy to help me out on this and give me some great feedback on these two topics. So really, we want to be we want to be, or I guess like the first thing would be to bring up would be Stoicism. And for those of you who don't know, there's a school of philosophy. It's a lot older than some of these modern philosophical topics, but be like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. We're Stoics, and some great philosophers from back in the day. And one of the main tenets of Stoicism is to kind of disconnect yourself emotionally from things that are outside of your control. Now, I guess how we can relate this to like a modern topic would be like, what people think about you, how people treat you. Say you're like driving in traffic and someone cuts you off and you start raging at this incompetent driver, which is something I'm totally guilty of. But really, like this, how Stoicism would relate to that. It's like, well, you can't control other people's actions, and therefore you shouldn't really get mad about things that are outside of your control. That's like one of the main tenets. So how does this relate to ladder anxiety and 1v1s? It's like, we'll say you jump on the ladder and you have no real control over the outcome of the match. Now, what you can control is how will you play. It's like, are you playing your best, right? So it's like, say you're having a bad day, you're tired, you don't really have to play a 1v1. It's like, so those are things like you can control, right? And if you do have anxiety or ladder anxiety about playing these matches, it's like, well, you should kind of like disconnect yourself from that feeling. Really, it's like you're only really hurting yourself in a sense, or denying yourself the opportunity to learn. Like, so it's like a very real and visceral feeling, being anxious and like not wanting to compete or not wanting to lose those ladder points, right? It's like that's something we kind of like attach our worth, to these ladder points, and or like our value as a player, something like that, to these ladder points. So that can very well, you can like make this same kind of corollary to taking a specific class at university, right? It's like, well, you want to protect that GPA, so are you really going to go out there and take like a higher level course that really you might challenge yourself and learn something, and it might really be a really good course to take for yourself? But it's like, nah, you're going to go with the the easy route, something like that, and you're just like doing yourself a disservice, right? So really, it's remember to have fun. It's like, that's why we play these games, to have fun. And I think sometimes as RTS players, we take it not too seriously, but if you're really looking to improve, it can be difficult sometimes. Or if you want to climb up that ladder and see yourself on that leaderboard, it's like, well, you might not want to jump into that match. Or if you're a new bar player at that and have kind of been carried by your team, so to speak, in these big 8v8 matches, it's like, well, you don't really want to put yourself out there and suffer through owning a loss, right? It's like there's no one else to blame for your own losses, right? So that might bring me to my next point, is like, if you do have anxiety with bar or playing 1v1s or really anything, it's like no one's truly out to get you in this game. And for that matter, I'm sure most 1v1 players are very gracious. They're going to be happy to see you playing. They're going to be happy to give you constructive feedback, help you learn the game. It's like point out what you could be improving or working on. And that's really not the case in AV8s, right? So maybe that more ties into what we're going to be discussing later. But so really the big point would be, you're only denying yourself the opportunity to learn, which is a huge thing. And it's like, so what are some techniques you might be able to implement to kind of overcome this, right? So try to focus on improving and looking for something that you can change. Or it's like you get excited about, okay, I studied this replay of my loss. I know I can do this, this, and this to improve or do better the next match, right? So that might be something that could kind of get you over the hurdle, right? Don't don't correlate or tie your enjoyment of the game to the result, and this really ties back to losing is an opportunity to learn, and it's like really I think is that should be a great that's just a great thing. It's like, well, if you kind of come approach it from this perspective, right? It's you have a lot to learn. Everyone's got a lot to learn. There's no perfect player, and there's so many mistakes we're all making, systematic or random perhaps, but really like you have a chance to address these systematic errors you're making in the game. So that's a great opportunity. Another way perhaps to overcome it is find someone that you kind of, I'm sure we all have a friend we've told about bar and got him in these 8v8 matches, and it's like, well, why not the two of you, or however many it is, it's like play matches against each other and try and learn and grow together in the game. I mean, there's such a great community between these players. I mean, bar is a pretty small game or small community, and it's like you have a lot of chance to kind of make friends or find people that are kind of at your skill level and are both looking to get better at 8v8 games or get better at 1v1. So there's, go in the Discord, reach out to people, say, hey, I'm kind of lower in the skill level. I'm looking to play some 1v1s today. I'm sure you'll find someone to kind of practice the game with, and you two might even become friends. So great way to approach it. And lastly, I mean, if you're not in the mood to play, just don't, right? So if you've had a long day, you want to come home and kind of relax, enjoy a bar, you don't have to play a stressful 1v1. I mean, I understand how stressful and taxing it can actually be to play these games, so really no shame in kind of relaxing in a less stressful game. I would consider 8v8s less stressful than 1v1s for sure. So hopefully that helps you all kind of think about a new way to approach 1v1s, playing the game if you do have some anxiety associated with losing points, not wanting to deal with a loss. And that brings us into our next point, is like why we should be playing 1v1s. And I think I've really addressed or hit home, like you should take these losses as a learning opportunity, and really it should be more important or more rewarding to lose 10 games in a row against a better player than it is to win 10 games in a row versus a weaker player. In the case of the latter example, it's like, well, really, what are you achieving beating up someone in this game and winning 10 games in a row? And it's like, is that really inflating your ego? Does this make you feel good? Like, I'm not really sure. It's like, but I think losing 10 games in a row against someone who's better than you is, you have 10 replays to study, 10 replays to learn from, and give yourself the chance to kind of learn something new or practice and improve at the game, right? So moving on to the next point about why we should be playing 1v1s, it's like it's like the pressure is on you, or you need to be successful in so many key components of an RTS game, and it's like raiding, defending, pushing, ecoing, macroing, making like tactical decisions about positioning, or how you're going to draw your opponent out of position maybe, or like counterattack, or use your multitasking to kind of tax them, or like make them make a mistake on a specific line. So if you're attacking in 3 areas at one time and you're confident in your micro or multitasking ability, you very well end up forcing your opponent to make a mistake. So it's another reason why we should be playing 1v1s, and it's really just kind of boils down to, it's like, well, how quickly do you want to get better at this game, or how quickly do you want to learn it? I mean, there's a lot of new players out there, and it has a very high skill ceiling, learning curve. It also has a high skill ceiling, but the learning curve is steep, and it's like, we've all been there before. I might take for granted the amount of time I've played or spent playing RTS games, and if you want to get better at the game, if you want to be a good, competent 8v8 player, you need to be playing 1v1s, because you're quickly going to find out what you're weak at. whether it's teching, macroing, scouting, learning what units counter what. Like, say you play a 1v1 match against a more experienced player and you're spamming ticks or spamming pawns, and they build a couple of like Janus or Pounders against you, and you haven't really seen this unit before. For those of you who don't know, it's like this AoE tank, right? So, and it perfectly counters spammed units that are clumped up together. It's like you can learn these new interactions or have a chance for someone who's more experienced in the game to kind of show you like what you should be doing in what situation. And this is a direct corollary between 8v8s. You can find yourself on the front line or in a naval battle. We don't see too many like naval units in 1v1, and I think that's going to be a topic for another video. But like even like air units, shurikens, how do you deal with shurikens? Well, like light tanks and grunts can actually shoot at those units, right? So it's not just these AA units you need to kind of deal with gunships, shurikens, bombers, scouts, what have you. So just a great chance to kind of learn unit interactions or have someone teach you or show you like what you need in certain contexts and situations, right? So another reason we should be playing ones is kind of tying back into this other point. It's like players are going to exploit your weaknesses and hence give you an opportunity to learn the game, right? So better players are more capable of finding your weaknesses and exploiting them. Let's talk about another reason why I should be playing 1v1s. And the great thing about Bar is like how accessible these big lobbies are, these big 1v1 lobbies, unlike other games where you're on the ladder and there's really no one else there. It's kind of not lonely, so to speak, but it's like you can plug yourself into a lobby where these like high level players are actually practicing, and you have every opportunity to say, hey, I'm new, I kind of would like to play, have a nice replay to study, and I'm sure players will be more than happy to give you that opportunity. Or you can sit there and ask questions in the spectator chat with like these veterans of the game who I'm sure will be more than happy to share their knowledge and expertise with you. So next time you're kind of thinking about playing a 1v1 game, scroll down to the active games that are being played, look for a lobby that has a lot of these well-known players, like Ragna, P-Tac, Rock, Randy, Teddy, Mighty Sheep. All these guys are out there playing 1v1s, and you can definitely have a chance to interact and talk with them. So kind of the last point I wanted to address for those 1v1 players out there who may be watching this game. Maybe I should make a video about this, but there's a lot of things that 1v1 players don't get a chance to do because of the nature of the matchups are. So one thing would be like teching. You don't really see too many matches that end up in T2 or T3 for that matter, and you can really find yourself in a weird position that you've never been in before. Is if a 1v1 game goes 25, 30, 40 minutes, and you're in this stage of the game where there's T2 units, T2 defensive structures, even T3, and it's like, well, you don't really have that same experience you do as a 1v1 or as a team game player. Almost every team game or 8v8 goes to like T3 or nukes, and you need anti-nukes, stuff like that. So really, as a 1v1 player, you do have a lot to learn from playing team games, and it's another example comes to mind would being like C players. I mean, I'm sure not a lot of us are completely well versed in playing a C versus C matchup or as that role on the board. So a lot to learn in all aspects of the game, and I hope this video kind of helps you out. If you like these kinds of videos and if you would like to see more of them made, leave a comment in the description. Let me know what you want to see produced, or if you like to see more of these 1v1 matches, or if you don't want to see these videos at all. I mean, I'm happy for the constructive feedback you all have been offering, and I really appreciate those of you who have been subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, and letting me know what I should be focusing on and improving. So thank you all for watching, and I'll switch back to the replay, and actually over now, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.